Hello, friends. I just wanted to take this special time to share with you some awesome things that I've learned from D. Gary Young through the 18 years that I have been a part of Young Living and got to sit in his classes and be part of his facilitator classes and all of that. So I wanted to get on here and share with you some awesome things. So I have 110 things I'm going to share. Before we get started, I would really love for you to, hey Lorraine, to share some of these things in your groups. I'm going to go over and share as well. Hopefully I can. It'd be awesome to be able to share with some of my friends and stuff. Before we get started, would you mind? If you have a group, this should be public, so you should be able to share it. Hey, Sharona, Miss Debbie. So if you could go and share this, I would be super grateful if you could. Okay, give me a thumbs up if you can share it. Is it shareable? Can I do it even here? I don't think. But I can invite some friends. Invite a group. Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. Okay, great. Thank you. So as for those who don't know me, my name is Dr. Mary Starr Carter, and I'm known as the Total Wellness Doc and Mom. And I wouldn't be or have the life I am today if it wasn't for the life of this man, D. Gary Young. He is a world leader in essential oils. He is a pioneer and the founding father of the modern day essential oil movement. So I am so honored to do a tribute, to share some of my stories, of my personal stories with Gary and classes and things he's shared with me. A few of my friends' stories today, some testimonials, so I think you'll get a lot out of it. Before we get started, I just want to give thanks to my Heavenly Father, because Gary always did. He always did from stage. He always did in life. He always did at the dinner table. So I just want to give thanks to my Heavenly Father for being able to sit under that tutelage and mentorship all of these years, to have 18 years with him. Many of you just got into Young Living just a couple years ago, and maybe you've got to see him speak. But I've got to be in a room where there was 30 or less people. I've got to sit and have dinner with him, with one other couple, myself and Jay. I've got to learn from him. I've got to learn so much. So let's get started. Okay, if you don't have this book, you definitely want to get it. You can get it from Life Science Publishing. It's one of the best investments you could buy to learn about not just essential oils, about a great mentor, someone that you can learn to live life with. So what are some of the things that Gary's taught me? One of the number one things that I kind of poo-pooed for a lot of years, because I just wasn't in alignment with that when I first started with Young Living, is he said, this is your owner's operator's manual, okay? This is your owner's operator's manual. Everything you need to know, your owner's operator's manual. He's talking about the Bible. And I learned about 5 to 6 years later that he was right. He was so right. There's so much natural health knowledge, biblical health, so much in there. And he is just so right. Emotional healing, spiritual healing, all of that. So right. That's number one. He taught me about no excuses. My good friend and mentor, Kathy Cowie, she was deathly afraid to speak in front of people. When I first went to her class, she was literally shaking, like shaking. And as she grew in the company, Gary just saw her potential, and he encouraged her and actually surprised her one day to speak on stage. And she still to this day doesn't love it, but I remember that. She literally threw up, had a migraine, but she did it. He would push you. There were no excuses. And I try to take that into some of my leadership skill too, to help remind some of you, no excuses. Push yourself to get outside your comfort zone. Gary Young taught me, well, my husband walked on fire with him, and as I did too. Now, walking on fire, what would you think? Like Gary Young taught people how to walk on fire? Well, anyway, it's something I actually learned from a chiropractic group. So when I first started with Young Living, I was in chiropractic school. I was very prideful, right? Because I had all of this chemistry knowledge and natural health knowledge. So I would go to Gary's classes and be like, I know this, I know this. So we're on this retreat, this like level 2 training, they called them back in the days. We're in, I think, Cancun, Mexico. And Gary's like, I'm going to teach you guys how to walk on fire. And we're like, I'm like, I know how to do it. I've already done it twice with my chiropractic groups. So I went to the spa and I just, spent the day. And I came back for like the last hour, right, of class before we would go walk on fire. So everybody's walking over these hot coals, and Mary goes to walk over the hot coals, and guess who gets burned? Me. Me. Thank goodness we had a lot of natural remedies to heal my foot, and I have no scars today. I had a 2nd-degree burn, but I got to confess that to Gary 2 years ago, literally probably today, 2 years ago at a dinner, and tell him how prideful I was and how I just thought, I don't need to prepare my mindset. I don't need to do any of that stuff, and I didn't. And it was really wonderful. My husband got to be part of the Myron Will men's retreat a couple years ago as well. And I thought he never would, because he's just very kind of straight, narrow, analytical, but he did it too. And he came back a different man. It's not about walking over fire or anything like that. It's about, well, anyway, that's for another story. Let's keep going. All right. So Gary Young's taught me no excuses. He taught me so much. I want to talk about some of the books he's written, some of the books that he taught me about this, about pregnenolone. And some of you know about hormones like progesterone and estrogen and estradiol and testosterone, all of those things, but you probably have never heard of pregnenolone. And it's a precursor. In this book he wrote, and you can again get this from Life Science Publishing, pregnenolone. I'll leave it up for a second if you want to write it down. Maybe someone can write it in the comments. In this book, there's just so much good learning. We had a huge phase in, I don't know, was the 90s maybe, where we were talking about no fats and stuff like that. And Gary taught me, you actually need cholesterol to build hormones. And people who don't get cholesterol, they're really struggling in their hormonal health. So this book is really phenomenal to teach you about the benefits and how hormones work and things like that. So this is called pregnenolone. Hey, Lori. Hey, Cindy. Good to see you. Gary Young taught me about hormones, but he also taught me about lifting weights. So here's another funny story for you. This is another book he wrote, A New Route to Robust Health. Gary was really about longevity and anti-aging. And so I don't know what year it was, but we're in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho for like a convention or a half a convention or something. And Gary is all into, I think he had just done his weightlifting competitions, him and Mary, and he was telling us about how we need to get up early and go lift weights, and he'll be in the gym, I was like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, come join him. So the gym's like, I don't know, 6-7 blocks away from the hotel. And we all go, me and Catherine Faso, and we're there, and Gary's doing his workout, and we just start lifting weights and stuff. And Catherine hasn't worked out in ages, and I probably haven't either and stuff. So we're just picking up the heaviest weights, and we're lifting, and we're doing everything Gary's. We love the gym. And could barely walk down. We were in such pain and agony because we want to be like Gary Young, right? But he teaches in this book, A New Route to Robust Health, really about anti-aging. And thank goodness we have some pain cream, right? When we do overdo things and stuff. So that's one of my funny stories about Gary Young and just wanting to follow that example, right? But sometimes we do overdo it. So another great thing that Gary has taught, he taught us early on, 2002, probably 2003. He was very, very much into teaching, still to this day, your hub of health is the colon, right? The hub of health is the colon. And if the colon isn't working properly, and now we know, I mean, this was before Brenda Watson and Dr. Axe and all of this. Gary was a forerunner. He really was a pioneer, not just in essential oils, but really in the natural health field. He would talk about things and bring us a product that we would see 3 or 4 years later in, you know, popular natural health, or, you know, on Dr. Oz, or, you know, whatever. I'm like, Gary's been talking about that for 10 years or 5 years or whatever. He really was such a forerunner. So that piece about the hub of health being your colon, it was huge. And this is why we have the cleansing trio. If you don't have it, use it. This is why we have the 5-day cleanse, or, you know, all of those things, digest and cleanse, all those products, because the hub of health is your colon. And then on top of that, he wrote a great book, I couldn't find it here, called Rejuvenate Your Health. And it's all about the liver. So if the hub of health is your colon, right, the liver is responsible for like 5,000 different enzymatic reactions, different reactions, and it's directly, and he would draw these pictures where the colon's here, the liver's here, and then all, like your testes, ovaries, lungs, all of these things are connected to the liver and ultimately the colon. So if these two aren't healthy, you'll see a degradation of all the other systems there too, all the organs and things like that. So that was called Rejuvenate Your Health. It was a phenomenal book. Try to get that from Life Science Publishing too. But he taught me that, and he is so right. And now in my 40s, and I'm seeing, you know, liver issues and stuff like that. It's really important. Now, this is an old book. You know, Gary had a research clinic before Young Living, as many of you know. And a lot of what his training was from Dr. Bernard Jensen, who was kind of the forerunner of colon health. And so in Gary's clinic, he had colonics, he had all of these things, but he also formulated a lot of his supplements like Comfortone, like multigreens, all of those things too. And in this book, this was from his later clinic that we had in Utah for a period of time, called Simple Guide to Healthy Living. And it has recipes in here. And a lot of this book was about the liver as well, but it was also about acid and alkaline. So Gary taught me and many others about the importance of having an alkaline diet, right? Importance of having an alkaline diet, vegetables, different things like that as well. So this was really interesting in this. And many of my good friends used the recipes, different things in this training guide to help them with different dis-ease conditions, right? Because that's not about products, that's about alkalizing your body, about fitness, about lymphatic. Gary taught me the importance of the lymph system, you know, this detox system, and sweating, and how important sweating was. He talked a little bit about infrared saunas and stuff through the years, but just the importance of like detoxing our system and sweating. So this is a lot of the different health benefits. Gary Young taught me about cooking with wolfberries and the benefits of wolfberries. This is a phenomenal book. If you do not have Ninja Wolfberry, The Ultimate Superfood by D. Gary Young, Ronald Lawrence, and Mark Schroeder, this is a phenomenal, phenomenal book. I highly, highly recommend it to you. The wolfberry has been so important in my family's life, in my kids' life, all of that. So this book by Gary as well, very, very good book. So he taught me how to cook with wolfberries. He taught me about walking backwards, right? Maybe you've never heard this, or maybe you've never heard him talk about this. But when he was in studying the longest living cultures in the world, people who lived to 100, people were super healthy in China and different areas. These people would walk backwards. And what it did is it would help derotate the spine. And later, right? Now, today, I see people walking on the treadmill backward. I see physical therapists having their patients walk backwards because it helps to derotate the spine and helps with spinal alignment and pain and all of those things. So Gary Young taught me to walk backwards. And I'll tell you a funny story. You know, we listen to Gary, we follow directions. So we'd go to a class and then we would, Kathy and I, or Catherine or whatever, we'd be down the road walking backwards. People see us or whatever. We'd be laughing at ourselves and stuff because what Gary taught us was so true. So true. So good things. Gary taught me the importance of minerals. And he had a product for some time called Coral. It's like coral calcium or something like that. But just minerals in general and in the soil and different places, how important minerals are to our body. Today we have a product called Mineral Essence. And Gary also taught me that sometimes things that taste bad are really good for you. And if you have not used Mineral Essence, I suggest you diluting it in just a little bit of pineapple juice, like half pineapple juice, half water. And it goes down much easier that way. So Mineral Essence, he taught me the importance of minerals, how important it was to your health. Do I have the Icorn book? Let's see. Oh, and most recently in the past, I don't know, was it been 5 or 6 years, he really talked a lot about wheat. And even before this book, and I think before he found Icorn, you know, I don't know, maybe the past 5 years we've seen books like Wheat Belly and things like that, but Gary's been talking about it for years and years and years. If you don't know what ancient Icorn is, the wheat we have today has been so like hybrid and genetically modified. It has like, I don't know, all these, I don't know, chromosomes is the right word, but the ancient Einkorn is very, very basic in its DNA, and it's much more digestible for the body and safer for the body. So this is a book that he's written called Ancient Einkorn, Today's Staff of Life. I'm hoping that maybe Life Science Publishing will honor him by putting all his books in a bundle so that people can talk about. But celiac disease, right? Gary was talking about that before it even had a name. I mean, seriously, he really was such a huge proponent. We talked about, let's see, I have on number 11, lifting weights to keep young, right? We talked about how important that was. I talked to you about walking backwards, hormones, hub of health, liver, Mega-Cal, a product that we have today too in the powder form. Very underutilized product, Mega-Cal is. Gary talked a lot about the importance of magnesium and calcium and the right balances for our body. That's why we have Super-Cal, but it's also why we have Mega-Cal. So that's a very good product to have. And I take, a lot of people take something out there called Calm. That's okay. Mega-Cal is like up here, okay? But you can take it at night. It's very good. You want to get your bowels used to it because magnesium can cause you to have more looser stools. So just get your body used to it. You need to take it out at night. Gary taught me to take a risk and to even be reckless a little bit. And that's very hard for my personality. But he always talked about if you don't take risk, you know, so many people, we want to stay doing our same thing. We want to go to the same thing. We want to do this with our kids. We want to move forward with this, and we don't want to take risks. So I'm going to give a shout out to Holly right now, who's taking a huge risk. She's going to a convention this year. I'm so proud of her. Really awesome. And Gary taught us that, and it does pay off when you get yourself outside of your box. Gary taught me that your past does not determine your future. Some of you look at me and say, well, I'm not a chiropractor. I'm not a doctor. I don't have a degree. I haven't learned about these oils. You know, Gary Young came from a dirt, like until he was 4 years old, he lived on a dirt floor, right? And then they upgraded to like a, I don't know, 4-bedroom little house. So he grew up barely, the only reason he passed high school was because he played football, right? And they just passed him. He could barely read when he graduated. Now, he could do a lot of things. He was an amazing mountain man. But when he had his accident, God had another plan for him. And education just really became, he taught me that you have to continually grow your education. You have to continually learn. but your past doesn't determine your future. That is his life. So I talked about education and how he says we must continually learn, continually learn. He taught me about the dangers of vaccines. I was a child at 4 years old after getting my MMR, polio, and DPT shot. In that incubation period, I woke up one day and could not walk. My legs did not work. And they rushed me to the hospital where I stayed for several days. Thank God. My feeling came back. Now, I was never diagnosed back then with a vaccine reaction. It wasn't until later, till I was learning through Gary and different things, that I actually got my vaccine records and my hospital records. And wouldn't you know, that was pretty scary. So I'm very grateful today for learning about the potential harmful ingredients in vaccines. Gary taught me about adulteration. You know, when I first got into these oils, it's like, yeah, whatever, you know, they can't be all the same, or they got to be all the same. And they really weren't. You know, back then we only had like other brands like Now and Oricacia. And I would, you know, test them and look at them like, oh my gosh, you know, Young Living oils are just so much more powerful. But he taught me all the different ways that your oils can be adulterated. And it's just crazy. Gary Young taught me to stand up for what you believe in. Yes, he was very, very passionate about, you know, all these books he's written, you know, Wheat Belly or whatever. He wrote us a book on vaccines back, or put it together at least years ago. He was very, very passionate. He taught me to put people over profits. And that's how this company, Young Living, has been, has lived their culture, their life. They put people over profits. And he always did. He always did. Gary Young taught me that one person can change the world. I should have left that to the end. But if Gary can do all that he can do, what's to say we can't even we could do a 10th, right? We get the ability to do that. We get the ability through the business of Young Living to make incredible amounts of money, which Mary says money in the hands of good people can change the world, right? Gary had the vision, the knowledge, the drive to change the world. And it's absolutely amazing what he did. If you don't know about Young Living and what millions of dollars we've given back, we have a foundation called the D. Gary Young, or the Young Living Foundation, where literally 100% of what you donate goes directly to either an organization or a school or one of the places that we pour into. African Hearts is just one of them that I'm pretty passionate about. Gary Young taught me giving is better than getting. Gary taught me to love all people. If you ever had a hug from Gary or got to talk to Gary for a minute, he made you feel like you were like his best friend. He was just always smiling and just always, you know, listening, and just he really truly loved all people, you know, not classes. And he got to sit with presidents. He got to sit with, you know, the poorest of poor, and all people mattered to him. So that was just really amazing. Gary taught me to travel the world, that, you know, sometimes in our little box of where we live and in our own culture and things like that, that it's important to travel the world, to see other cultures, to see history. You know, going to France was amazing to see, like, really ancient, old cultures that we don't have here in the United States. He taught me at 25 to get out of my box. Oh, here's another funny story. Number 26, he taught me retirement is when you die. This is the words he said to me when I was 30 years old. And I had just let go of my chiropractic practice because, boy, my Young Living commission check was so big, and I was going to travel and teach people, and this is what I was going to do. Again, I was so prideful back then, and I went up to Gary and I was, Gary, I'm so excited. I just retired at 30 because of you and your company. And he looks at me and he goes, young lady, retirement is when you die. And I was a little offended, I guess, way back then, but he's so right. we must keep going. And when did retirement even become like an option, right? Way back when we had to displace some of the workforce. But we really should always stay active, stay giving to our communities, and be productive. And if you look at when people retire, what happens? Whoop, their health goes down, they're sitting all day, all of those things. And I think he later said in a public speech, that there's no retirement in the Bible. Like if you live biblical wisdom, right, there's no retirement ever mentioned in ancient wisdom at all. All right. He taught me age doesn't matter. About, what you want to do in life. I mean, he got his PhD in his late 50s, early 60s. It's just amazing. He taught me about longevity. He taught me that you can get pregnant in your 50s. Anyway, he taught me about fasting. Oh, he's written this other good book. And I think there's some things about fasting in here too, called The Truth Behind Growth Hormone. Its promise and its peril. How to safely unlock the benefits of growth hormone. And whatever you're feeling about that, that's fine. Remember, he wrote some of these books way back when, and there may be some newer knowledge that he talks about today. But what I love in this book, this is really fun. In the back of the book, you have 5 tests to determine how fast you're aging. And this is a fun thing to do if you're doing a little class or a little hands-on class and stuff. And it like kind of tells you how old you are, like what group you're in, 20s, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70s, right? And I've done this even with kids and found like they're in their 30s or 40s because they're just not healthy, right? I talked to you about wolfberries. He taught me how to regenerate my body and actually become younger. And in my 40s now, I'm actually getting to use a lot of those tips that he taught. Sadly, I wish I had listened earlier. He taught me, and this kind of gross, we talked about colon, but he taught me the importance of pooping, right? But he also talked a lot back in his early years too about what was happening to our female health. And this is when infertility was like much lower. Today, it's way, way higher. And he taught about tampons and non-organic cotton, right? Because all these tampons are being made with pesticides, non-organic cotton. And we're putting them places where the sun don't shine, right? And it's going into our system. And so our uterus, in those sensitive areas, why are we seeing so much higher incidence of disease, female infertility, female, even cancer? So he talked about tampons. I listened a long, long time ago. And if you don't know about that, get informed, spend the extra money to switch over to organic. He taught me, number 3, he taught me to work hard and play hard. If you knew Gary, he was so adamant about at our retreats or things like that too, about, we would work hard, but we would play hard, all of these things. He loved to dance with his wife. He loved to celebrate. He loved to cook for people and different things. That was just such a good example. He taught me to teach your children at a young age. His son, Jacob, could drive like those, D1, I don't know what those backhoes and things like that when he was like 7 or 8 years old, maybe even 6, maybe even younger, to tell you the truth. But Gary taught his kids all that he knew starting at a very, very young age. And that's just so awesome. It's so awesome to see his legacy already being built out. Gary taught me the power of your words. Before conscious language was popular and things like that. Well, actually, he brought that to Young Living, like really right in the beginning, about the power of our words and saying things like, try. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. I am. Oh, my friend Charnel, she was here, she would correct me. But the power of your words. He taught me the power of gratitude. I mean, he made writing gratitude journals popular way before anyone else. The power of gratitude. But he also taught me something at one of the trainings, the power of speaking things into life. So if you've ever had a toast with me or my family, you'll see that we go around the room, we say things we're thankful for the previous year. And then we speak thanks or gratitude for something we're thankful for in the future. So for those of you in business, maybe you want to go to the next rank, you would speak thankful for it. You want to have a baby, you would speak like you're already thankful that that's happened. So it was just a neat thing that he taught in one of his trainings. He taught us to dream big. He was always about goal casting and vision. He taught us to set goals for my life. You know, he was always big into goals. Some of his classes were all about goals. And of course we could use, you know, some of our fun oils to do that. Oh, I love this oil. Live with passion. I don't even know if we have this anymore, but oh, I wish you could smell it. I wish you could smell it. Live with passion. This was Gary. Gary taught us to live with passion. He taught us to live with passion. Gary taught me about network marketing. You know, when I was in Young Living, I'd never really been in a network marketing company before. So he taught us about this model and the example of it. He told us to overcome fear. Okay, and we have one of the best oils in the world, Valor, to do that. It's such a wonderful blend to help overcome fear. He taught me, I've got shorthand falls. He taught us to climb mountains. There's another quick story for you. One of the leaders retreats we went on was at Daniel's Summit in Utah, and it was winter time, and there was this big like mountain, and it was pretty steep, and I was really afraid of heights back then. And so it was like if you got to the top of this mountain, you got this oil. It was called Peak Potential. I believe it was called Peak Potential. So if you climbed to the top of the mountain, you got this peak potential. And we would, I was like at that steep part, and I was on my knees, and Gary came down and they're encouraging me, and I'm going up, you know, up the mountain, and I made it. And I still have a picture somewhere. I'll have to show you later. And we got our peak potential. But he teaches us to climb mountains. He teaches us to reach our highest potential oil. Just beautiful, beautiful. He taught me how to lead a team. At that Daniel's retreat, one of us was in charge, you know, to lead a team, and about how you could lead a team. And his example is just phenomenal. I'm going to skip that one. But he taught me at that retreat that I'm better riding a snowmobile versus driving a snowmobile. We'll go on from there. That was really fun. He was crazy on those snowmobiles. He taught me how to see the potential in others. Gary always could see people's potentials, like way beyond. Like I told you that story about Kathy Cowie and how he could see her potential and, you know, knew how great things are. And a lot of people have personal relationships with them too, or with Gary, you know, and Mary. They could always see the potential, whether it was your marriage or your business or your children or whatever. It was very powerful. Gary Young taught me the power of forgiveness, not just in his classes, but the example he had in his life. We talked already about never stop learning. Gary Young taught me that wolfberry cheesecake in his cookbook is probably the best cheesecake in the world. And I've made it maybe 6 or 7 times, and it is phenomenal. It's so good. Gary taught me to honor and learn from all cultures. It was really interesting when Young Living was very small. You know, we were all Americans, right? And a few Canadians. And as we grew through the world, and it was amazing to watch him and watch Young Living just really honor and all cultures, and to learn to do that myself. Because if you want to have a big business, then you'll have to do that. You have to get the training to learn how to honor all people in all cultures and all personalities. Gary taught me how to give to those in need. Gary was very, very giving. I don't know if you guys knew this, but, you know, Mary and Gary, they didn't need anything. You know, they gave so much, so much. Gary taught me children can learn so much if we let them. And I think I talked about that earlier, you know, that we sometimes limit our kids' potential because they're only 3 or they're only 6, you know, but what if a child was allowed to learn, you know, some difficult tasks? Gary 57 taught me when you heal wounds and trauma from your life, from your past, that your life can be so much more fulfilling. That's part of our, this is not a Gary Young. This is a book that will have convention called Ministering the Wounded, using prayers and essential oils. And it's put together by a woman who's been studying the oils for several years, but has helped thousands and thousands of people get over their wounds. And Gary himself has shared in many of his training about his past and about his wounds, and how when you heal those things, you don't just see changes in your emotional health or your spiritual health. You see changes in your physical health. At his clinics, I remember one of my colleagues who worked in the clinic with him, she said he would have to have me go talk to that woman about, you know, things that might have happened in her past, you know, and that she needed to heal that and have some of those wounds, forgiving those wounds, get rid of the roots, all of those things, if she was going to have complete restoration. And some people listened and some people didn't. Gary Young, we talked about the owner's operator's manual, how he said he lived a lot of his life from this book and from the Bible. But he also taught us too, you know, just fundamentals about attracting abundance, about your mindset, all of those things that come from that. He taught me what real freedom was. Really powerful. Oh, he taught me some amazing techniques. I got to be under his tutelage for learning the Raindrop Technique. This is the old book he wrote. This is the newer version of that by Life Science Publishing. He is the founder of Raindrop Technique, and I can't tell you all the stories that I have from the hundreds and hundreds of clients and patients that I've worked on, but it's a phenomenal technique, phenomenal technique. Was not made for massage therapists or chiropractors, but today, sadly, it's kind of been niched that way. But you can get this book. You can get a kit of the Raindrop oils. It's a beautiful kit. Comes with that 9 essential oils and some base oils. Wonderful, wonderful to do for your family and friends. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. He taught me the VitaFlex technique. I don't have my VitaFlex books, but VitaFlex is that reflexes through your hands and through your feet. Very powerful technique too. Again, I was that proud college PhD student, doctorate, was like, oh, what is this? What is this? And said, this can't be right or whatever, until I'm literally in my like part 4 of my boards, and it was talking about the skin's galvanic electricity, right? Skin's response. And that's what VitaFlex uses. It uses a small charge to kind of like spark in these different areas in your hands, your feet. You can VitaFlex anywhere. But it was really neat. I was like, oh, put in my place again. And when I left VitaFlex out of the Raindrop Technique, because it's part of the Raindrop, I just wanted to be quicker. One day I'm sitting on a table receiving a Raindrop, and I said, add the VitaFlex in this time. She added in. Just the VitaFlex alone felt me like I had a whole treatment. So VitaFlex, very, very important. If you learn to use VitaFlex in oils as he's taught us, right, you can see really powerful changes, really powerful changes. Okay, Neuro technique. This was really fun. About 10 years ago, I think Gary started studying with this. You can find someone, I don't know if Jan has is on here, but she might be able to give a link. She trains and teaches people in the neuroauricular. Hey, Juana. Hey, friends. Awesome. Cindy started Raindrop. That's how she got introduced to Young Living. Gary said that your food can be your best medicine. Food is your best medicine. He said, if you can't, one of his quotes were, he taught us, if you can't eat it, don't wear it, right? If you can't eat it, don't wear it. And he was really talking about personal care products that we use really should be super, super, super safe, super important. Food is your best medicine. Absolutely true. He also taught me there is always hope. I think that in our modern day society, we hear someone get a diagnosis or we label someone this or that. And I don't have that as part of my mindset anymore because of working with Gary, because I personally, with my own patients, I've seen what can happen with natural food and medicine and healing and all of those things, inner healing, what can happen for a person who has cancer and can have the worst diagnosis or the best diagnosis. And I've seen what happens when you have natural foods, natural medicine, inner healing, all of those things. So I believe there is always hope, no matter what the label is. We talked about love. Gary taught us to love our liver, and I talked earlier about this, but we had a liver lovers club. We had a liver lovers club, and I learned to drink and maybe not like something called Vitae Life Juice. Vitae Life Juice. Google that. You can get the recipe. It's a interesting juice for your liver. Gary taught me about bad cells and good healthy cells, and I think I alluded to that before. He taught me how to turn bad cells into good healthy cells. Gary helped me help hundreds of patients in my practice in my clinic and still today. Taught me things that helped me help hundreds of my patients. Gary taught me that even in your worst circumstances, when people fail you and things are stolen from you or life just looks so awful, that there is still hope and there's still a purpose and a reason for all those things. Gary Young taught me how to make my skin look younger. I talked to you about hormones already. Gary Young taught me how to keep my breath and my throat nice and clear, right? He taught a lot of us different things we can use. Gary Young taught me how to keep my kids healthy, even way before I had kids. And all of those things that he's taught through the years has been the reason, including chiropractic, that my kids get, is the reason my 5 and 8-year-old have never had a sick doctor visit. Not an ear infection. Doesn't mean they don't get sick or they don't have issues, but they get they get healthy very, very quickly, much quicker than any of their cousins, than any of their friends, because we have natural solutions, right? So Gary Young taught me the dangers of pasteurized foods and milk. He taught me the dangers of pesticides. He taught me the dangers of what they're doing to our food way years ago. I didn't realize that they were actually irradiating our food, which takes a lot of the nutrients out of it. So you can have something that looks beautiful, but just not be getting the good nutrition from it. And I think all our food has to be irradiated now. He taught me the dangers of microwaves. We haven't had a microwave in 15 years. I would say that's part of the reason we're pretty healthier kind of, than most people too, because we're not using a microwave. And you see that actually, like when you go over the pond too, that people aren't using microwaves because they know the research and that it denatures your food. He taught me about chlorinated water and how harmful taking a bath in chlorinated water or something like that. It's pretty awful. It's like drinking 4 glasses of pool water or something like that. Gary Young taught me how to be abundant. Gary Young taught me how to love and protect animals. He was very, very passionate. As you know, he was a wonderful horseman. He loved to be on his horses and riding, and he was a mountain man. But he also was very passionate and adamant about protecting animals in their natural habitat too. So that's that line of animal products that we have. A portion of that goes for, you know, protecting animals, and back to that. Gary Young taught me how to love and protect pristine land and natural habitats. Like I said earlier, he was very aware of what land that had been farmed or had, you know, chemicals or industry on it versus like all of our farms are very from pristine land. So there's not a trace of, you know, footprint of from chemicals or previous farmers. Does that make sense? Like, very important of pristine land and protecting lands. He taught me all oils are not the same. He taught me competition is good for business. He taught me truth and integrity will always rise to the top. Truth and integrity will always rise to the top. Gary Young taught me about doing my best, about pushing myself. Gary Young taught me how to run. Yep, he taught me how to run. Run in business, run. Gary Young taught me how to lose weight. Oh, yes. He taught a lot of us and gave us a whole bunch of products to do that. You know, funny thing too about Gary is he, in the beginning, like when we were first in Young Living and stuff, he would like be like, suck it up, you know, you guys, come on, power meal. It doesn't taste that bad or whatever. And we like, you know, or mineral essence or whatever. But he did melt through the years and eventually gave us healthy chocolate and soda, you know, Zing, Ninja Zing and stuff like that, and things that people needed. And I think in his heart, he realized not everyone was him, and that some people did need those things to help them transition into a healthier lifestyle. Does that make sense? And I think we all could learn from that too. Yeah, if I can pop some pills to help me with my healthy weight management, I'm going to do that, you know, to make things easier. That just the society we are in, we want quick fixes and easy. So I think Young Living made high quality products to help people transition into a healthier lifestyle. If that makes sense to you. He taught me how to keep my children off of drugs. He taught me how even the worst diagnosis and condition has a cure, in my opinion. He taught me the benefits of essential oils for end-of-life care. And the beautifulness, you can see the diffuser in my background, and the power of diffusing and frankincense, and just the beauty that can happen for a family who's taking care of someone in the end-of-life care can bring a lot of peace and a lot of stress relief of using essential oils for that stress. I think I said this, but I'll say it again. My 97 is unforgiveness and bad emotions can equal disease. And dis-ease is the body being out of balance for something nutritionally. He taught me how to cleanse. And one of the things he would teach us is that you have to nutritionally fortify the body many times before you cleanse, right? If you don't, when you cleanse, you can kind of lower that nutritional deficiency already. So we build, we cleanse, or I think it's build, cleanse, fortify, or fortify, cleanse, build. Anyway, he taught that. I remember those sheets and his training for that. And I've really used that for years. And that's why for a lot of you who want to do some deep cleansing or different things like that, it's so important to use your Ninja Red. It's so important to use your minerals, you know, for a period of, I don't know, you know, a couple of weeks, 30 days, but just fortify your body so that when you're cleansing or doing a fast or doing the 5-day cleanse or whatever, and that cleanse is built with fortification in it, like the 5-day cleanse, if you know that, that's built with the fortification in it. So it's very good. Gary taught me what real joy was. Gary taught me to thank and glorify my Heavenly Father in all things. Gary taught me that when you don't want to cry in public, you just pretend you have allergies. That was a funny thing that he shared. Gary Young taught me that life is rewarding with a community of thousands of friends, deep, close, personal friends that would do, and deep, close, personal friends that would do anything for you. Really, really got to see that through his life too. Gary taught me, I said earlier, he taught me how to lead, but he also taught me how to build a team. He taught me how to be humble when you're building a team. He taught me that more millionaires are made in network marketing than anywhere else, and just the industry and what we're in. Gary Young taught me to stand tall even when you're in excruciating pain, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And Gary Young taught me when you're hurting, help others. It'll make you feel better. I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. I'll say this one. Being different and weird is good. Gary Young taught me that. Gary taught me to think globally. Gary taught me to be a good steward of my money, time, and talents. And then I'm just I think if you guys have anything to add, I would love for you to add in the comments some things that Gary has taught you, or maybe a funny story, or, we went over a lot of things, probably a little bit more than 110, but it's just so powerful, his life, his legacy. And I'll just kind of come back to this piece, in this book, and his life and his legacy. It's a beautiful book. It's wonderful, but it cannot encompass all that this man has done, all the lives, the millions and millions of lives that his hard work for year after year after year he has done, the blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm talking blood, sweat, and tears that he's given up for you. There's a post out that says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But now that's our challenge, right? That's our challenge to go out. And if you do Young Living as a business with me or with anyone, it's your challenge right now to go out, to share the mission, to share the vision, to get the skills. Gary was adamant about personal, professional skills. He was constantly training all those years after he had his accident and stuff. He was learning, he was training, he was doing the inner healing. He was doing all those things to prepare a foundation for what we have today. And a lot of us think we're just going to go out and share with 10 people or even 100 people and that we're going to have a phenomenal business. Well, if you don't have the skills to do that, you got to get the skills, you got to get the training, so get this book. It will encourage you. It will grow you. Get out there and start sharing. Use Young Living as a tool to help others. Because as Mary Young says, money in the hands of good people can change the world. So I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank Gary for his life. I want to thank his family. I want to thank Mary and the boys for the legacy. I want to thank all those at Young Living corporate, because as my friend Christoph Smith said, I wouldn't have the life today I wouldn't have my life today if it wasn't for Gary's life. So amen. We'll see you later. Bye-bye, everybody.